Welcome everybody. I'm Joyce Anu and this is Practice. Today we're going to focus on a shorter practice with just a handful of asanas, and we'll practice those on the ground. So what you'll want to get started today, perhaps a blanket and a bolster. And in this practice we traditionally don't use props, but I am actually going to show you some options to use the bolster if that's more comfortable for you. So let's go ahead and begin by sitting on the feet or kneeling in between the feet, Vajrasana or Virasana. And then just taking a moment, placing the palms on the tops of the thighs, sitting erect through the spine and moving up through the crown of the head. Let yourself start to sink into your seat. So the energy feels like it's settling down. And then we can go ahead and bring the hands together in Anjali Mudra, the gesture of compassion, and then just gently lowering the head towards the heart. And just taking a moment here to tune in to the space around the heart. And see if there perhaps arises an intention for your practice today. Or you can also dedicate your practice to someone that you'd like to share the benefits of this practice with. And then lifting the head and releasing the hands. Inhale, take the arms out and up. And then as you exhale, bring the hands to the heart and let yourself fold at the crease in the groin. You can let the hands come to the floor and the knees can separate slightly. And then let yourself come onto your forearms. And then allow the palms of the hands to rest one on top of the other as you release the head down. You can also make a stacked fist like this, one on top of the other. You can also take the knees a little wider apart here. And then just getting into the passive, the yin aspect of the shape. So allowing the muscles to get soft now. Feel the breath moving, unrestricted, into all parts of the body. Let the breath be conscious and slow. And of course, when you slow down the breath, that deepens both the inhalation and the exhalation. See if you can just stay with that thread for the next minute. Thread of experiencing the inhalation, feeling it come to its peak and then turning into its exhalation. And so on. Slow, mindful, slightly deeper breaths. And then gently pressing up with your hands, straightening the elbows. From here, we'll just take the right leg and slide it forward. So we come up onto hands and knees and slide the right knee forward towards the right wrist. The left foot can start to move also towards the hands as that's comfortable for you. I like to slide my back hip back, so I'm kind of cozying that left groin right into that right heel. And then a little bit of activity. I create a little bit of activity in that right foot. So almost try to press the top of your foot into the floor as if you were bending your ankle. And then we're going to fold into the sleeping swan. That's the name of this posture in the Yin style. And again, you can let your head rest on the backs of your hands, on your stacked fists. Or if you're a little stiffer in this shape and you'd like to put your forearms on the bolster and your forehead on the bolster this way or this way or this way, you're welcome to take what feels appropriate for you today. When we come into these yin postures, we get passive muscularly. And there's a certain, especially in the hips, a certain kind of unwinding that happens. Certain muscles passively shorten, and that can actually make the muscle relax. Other muscles get actively stretched or passively stretched. And there's a targeting of the connective tissue with the yin style practice. So we're working primarily today in the joints between the knees and the navel. And we're working to stretch out that deep layer of connective tissue called fascia. Of course, when we come into these shapes, we're not just stretching fascia, however. We can't isolate and just say we're only stretching the deeper connective tissue in the body. We're also putting stretch on the muscles, a little bit of a load on the tendons. But here we're primarily relaxing into the shape, letting gravity take us into it over a period of time. And that tends to address more restrictions in the fascia, those long, slow holds. That are done in a completely relaxed fashion. Okay, placing the hands again underneath and drawing that right leg back. And we'll switch sides, left leg coming forward, right leg going back. I'm rolling the right hip into the left heel, and then come down onto your elbows and coming down onto your hands with your forehead. This left knee can go more out to the side or more towards, pointing towards my head. The foot can come further forward or less far forward. You don't want to feel any sharp sensation in the knees here. And then we just begin to get quiet and move deeper inside with the felt experience of the shape. If you could actually imagine a swan falling asleep, see if you can get that relaxed. There's a deep, deep fold in the crease of that left groin. Maybe some strong sensation through the buttocks, that left buttock and outer hip. See if you can just soften and gradually yield into it. The yin practice is about yielding. Take a few more deep cleansing breaths in and out, letting the nervous system start to get quieter, calmer. And then again, take the hands back and press yourself up. Go ahead and bring the knees back and come into our shoelace pose. It's the Yin vernacular for what you might know as cow face pose. And we're going to cross the right leg over top of the left thigh, sandwich the knees. And if you want to go a little deeper into the shape, you can keep the knees stacked one over the other, but start to bring the feet forward a bit. And then we'll go ahead and fold in, walking the hands forward, releasing the head. Your chin may hook over the edge of the knee, or it may not reach the knee. If it's comfortable to just let the back of your neck stretch, release your head down. And then see if you can start to bring your attention deep into those groins. Let the buttocks get heavy. And let the hips unwind as you relax and soften into the shoelace pose with a forward bend. And inhale, coming up. So we're holding these poses today about 3 minutes aside. I'm not actually timing us, but I'm aiming for about 3 minutes. And the postures in the Yin practice, you can stay quite a few minutes in each shape. But today, since we have a shorter practice, we're just going to stay 3 minutes and just do a handful of shapes. So now we're taking the second side of our shoelace, getting the buttocks evenly weighted as best we can, and then folding from the groin, softening, and releasing forward. So some options for the arms. If the forward bending is a little stiffer for you, then having the arms forward is a good option. You can walk the hands forward, and that will give you some leverage to fold in over your front leg. Other options are to hold one wrist behind the back and let the shoulders rotate inward slightly. And that gives me a little more sense of deepening the fold. Because I already have a fairly strong forward bend, I can work with the arms behind the back, and that weight staying back near my hips helps me sink even more fully and bend in the lower body and at the groin. See if you can allow the breath to keep wending its way down into the lower belly, even though there's some compression there, even though the diaphragm might not be as fully able to descend. Still, there's a sense that the legs are magnetizing the breath and drawing it down deep into the lower body. And then as you inhale, come up slowly, letting the chin come to the chest. We'll come back into our vertical position and uncross the legs. And then from here, we're going to come right onto our belly for Sphinx pose. So in Sphinx pose, I'm prone. My elbows placed underneath my shoulders. Make your forearms parallel to each other. Spread your fingers and press lightly into the tops of your feet. And then you can relax. So there's a sense of initially elongating the legs outward toward the toes, and then a relaxed sense in the legs, buttocks. Feel the spine softening and releasing down towards the floor. Let's take a few breaths here. If you're trying to decide what to do with your head in this shape, there's a variety of different options. You can release the head down, chin to chest like this. You can keep the head in a neutral position, or you could rest the head on a block or a bolster like this. So this particular shape, getting into the organs of digestion and also into the pelvic organs, the urogenital system, the lower part of the intestines, the stomach, the liver, the spleen, the gallbladder, all being impacted by this particular shape. Feel the belly gently expanding against the floor with the in-breath. And complete exhalation, softening even more deeply the anterior ribs downward. And then I'm going to move my elbows slightly forward and a little bit together here. And then a little variation. Go ahead and bring the feet up and spread the knees wide. And bring the soles of the feet together. Kind of like a frog position. My heels are close to my buttocks, my knees are wide. Soles of the feet together. And then I'm really releasing that upper abdomen. Letting the back body sink towards the earth. Okay, let's go ahead now and straighten the legs. Bring the hands back by the sides of the shoulders and press up onto all fours. And we're going to come into our frog position, Manduka, sitting back into the heels. And you can even bring the knees a little extra wide today. Letting the head come down. Upper back broaden. So the elbows slide wide. Now, if you're more comfortable and you have your bolster handy and you'd like to use the bolster, you're welcome to do a more restorative style manduka, like this. So I just support the whole trunk on the bolster, turning my head to one side, but still keeping my hips low, tucked under slightly. And then if you'd like, you can turn your head the other direction. We like to stay symmetrical if we're turning the head to one side. Repeat it for an equal amount of time on the second side. And then returning the head to center and gently pressing back up to the vertical. Pause for a moment in the vertical seat. Okay, and let's go ahead now and come onto our backs. I'm going to take a brief knee to chest position, briefer. Have your bolster here. I'm going to be using it for an inverted shape in a moment. But in the meanwhile, just drawing the knees into the chest. Allowing again the groin to soften. Okay, and then we're going to swing the hips up and just take the bolster and place the bolster under the base of the spine, like this. Then coming into happy baby pose, allow the knees to bend and go wide, and then reach up and catch a hold of your outer feet. Try to keep your tailbone anchored on the bolster. Imagine any areas of tension in your brain, in your belly, wherever you might notice, in your hands, your neck. See if you can imagine that tension just starting to melt like butter on a hot day. Staying present, mindful breath, and allowing the body to find homeostasis. As you continue to relax and let go, Might modify the shape slightly. The knees might come a little bit wider. You can be grabbing the shins or the ankles. You don't necessarily have to grab the outer feet, but the arms are inside the legs. And I give a little bit of pressure such that the knees go down towards the floor. If this is causing any strain in your back at all, your low back, consider backing off a little bit on how deep you're going into it, and let yourself instead untuck your pelvis slightly so the very base of your spine gets heavily weighted on the bolster. So it's called the spider pose in the Yin vernacular. Call it happy baby sometimes too. It's a really nice hip opener. And done this way, it's slightly inverted. Okay, let's go ahead now and bring our legs together and let the knees straighten. And you can continue to hold on to your calves or your outer ankles. If you have the capacity to catch a hold of your big toes or the tops of your feet or the outer feet, you're welcome to do that too. Then let the shoulders release back towards the floor and keeping the tailbone on the bolster. Urdhva Paschimottanasana, upward facing back body stretch. You can consider bending the knees slightly in this shape if it feels like it releases the low back and gives you a better capacity to stay down through the base of the spine. That's fine. You can bend the knees slightly. You can even take the legs wide. And then using the weight and the leverage of the arms to draw the legs down. Sometimes this posture is done with the feet together and a strap around the toes as well. So there's different variations. I'm encouraging you to get a little wider, a little space between your hips today, and kind of soften. And let the weight of the arms drop down and let that draw the legs with it. Let's take a couple more breaths in this shape. So I'm almost halfway in between the happy baby and a wide seated forward bend. Okay, let's go ahead now and bring the legs back together. Bend the knees and release the feet one at a time to the floor, keeping the pelvis on the bolster. And we'll just use this as a brief counter pose. So now our spine is extended and our hips are relatively extended. Then just take the feet over to the right, to the left, and let the knees gently fall to the right for a moment. Just a little variation on knee down twist. And then switching feet to the right, knees to the left. And then back to center with the feet. Go ahead and lift the pelvis up and remove the bolster. And we'll come into our final relaxation pose, our Yin pentacle. So take the feet wide, take the arms wide, palms face up. If you have an eye pillow here and you'd like to put your eye pillow on, you're welcome to. And just noticing how you feel after that short practice. What's released? What's different? Where does your attention go when you feel the place that's most kind of obvious in your awareness? And then letting go at increasingly subtle levels as you breathe. Softening the eyes and the face, the tongue and the brain, the jaw, temples, throat, the belly. And please feel free to continue in your pentacle pose relaxation for as long as you would like. And I hope you enjoyed this short yin practice today for unwinding. Thanks for joining me. Namaste.